Alright. Mute that. Alright, say something, Karis.
Check 1, 2.
Got you. I got you all set. We'll let that run in the background. Forgot to turn the sound off on it. I'll run that battle real quick, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn the floor over to Karis here, guys. Please be respectful, and again, if you have questions or you have feedback on any of the topics that we bring up, feel free to say something in the chat. Me or Karis one, we'll see it. All right.
Okay, check
Karis,
1, 2, check 1, 2.
all yours.
And welcome once again. Give me a moment here. I gotta turn my mic off just long enough to clear my throat. Hang on. All right, first up, I do want to reiterate a point that Toth Monitor made just a couple minutes ago as to why I'm here. This is the Toth Monitor Podcast. It always has been, it always will be. But he asked for my help some time ago because, due to his condition, it sometimes strains. It can become straining, right? It can become hard for him to talk for expended periods of time. I do not suffer from that limitation, so I was more than happy to pitch in and help. Now, that's why I'm here, just to help Top out because he's deserving of that. And I hope that clears up any confusion that may be out there. Second, in about 20 minutes, Techno will join us. Techno will join us from the Return of Reckoning team, and he has a couple of announcements about. He's going to talk about the grand rollback for one thing. He's going to talk about the rollback, what may have prompted it, what is being done, and the intention of what was done, and how all that sort of played out for the player base. So if you have issues about the rollback, you have questions about the rollback, in about 20 minutes or so, Techno will be here, and you'll be able to promote those as well. And I also have hopes that another interested party will show up. Although, it's a possibility. We'll put it that way. And if that happens, I'll run it by Toph and just another member of the player base. Okay, and then the final announcement before we get started on the Return of Reckoning information is that here in our household, on weekends especially, we all tend to be night owls. So both Techno and I have only recently crawled out of bed. So until my voice warms up, you're just going to have to deal with it. I haven't had all my morning caffeine yet. Okay. Once again, welcome to the Toth Monitor Podcast. I appreciate Toth Monitor letting me come in here and make a few comments, sort of handle the moderating duties. And Toth, of course, is free to chime in anytime he wishes. Because as I've said, this is the Toth Monitor Podcast. On the first order of business, first thing I want to bring up is, for those of you who may not be aware, 2 weeks ago, And the podcast video, as Toth said, is up on his channel 2 weeks ago. Max was the special guest. And he wore an outfit that was just amazing. It had to come off of a French, you know, modeling line fashion show somewhere. But anyway, but in case you missed that part, we do have the questions that he asked, and we do have the answers, so to speak. And I thought we'd spend just a few minutes talking about some of the stuff that Max talked about. And you know, when I was a little surprised, I'll say this as diplomatically as I can. I was a little surprised that more people weren't involved when Max was on than what we had. And I say that because I'm not going after anyone in particular, but I often see on while in game, I often see in chat people talking in chat, or people talking on Discord, how they wish they had more opportunity to communicate with the dev team. The opportunities don't get much more rich than what we had 2 weeks ago when Max himself was here open for questions. And that's one reason that Top does this, and that he's always done this, right? Is to give the player base the chance to bring questions up. Because as he has pointed out on many occasions, once these podcasts are over, he fixes them up on the post on YouTube, and Max and the others do listen. So hopefully some of you out there will have a question for us. Now, there was an issue that was brought up 2 weeks ago that I thought I would start with. And that was this question that was asked to Max. And the question was, the renown gain nerf which happened 1 or 2 summers ago, did it have the intended effect? Or is it time to revisit it? All right. During the answer to that question, Max actually was good enough to ask me how I felt. Now his short answer was, as far as the renown gain nerf which happened, was no. He didn't think that there was a need to revisit the whole issue. That there was enough going on, right, with the double renown weekends that happen, or the double renown events that happen, with all the way that the players have access to, right, to gain renown, that it just wasn't an issue that needed to be revisited at this time. For what it's worth, I thought that was a perfectly fine answer. And I thought it was perfectly legitimate. Right, Toth? I mean, I thought it was just an issue that, at the moment, did not need to draw the attention of those who are attempting to enhance the game, as it were. And the example I brought up was, as a long-term player on the server, renown today is as easy to gain as walking outside in the middle of a thunderstorm and getting wet. That's the difference I would make. That's the qualification I would put on it. Because back in the day, once again, and I want to bring this up, back in the day when I was leveling my first character, my sword master, it was during that period of time when, once you hit renown rank 40, all of your renown gains were cut to 25%. So for every 4 renown points that you got, that you earned, I should say, for every 4 renown points that you earned, you only actually received one. Okay, so your renown gain was reduced to 25% of what you actually accumulated as you went along. And under that system, I got my Swordmaster all the way up to 78 before it was loosened up, before they went 1-to-1. And there were a few people that got to 80 under that system. Norcali was one of them. There are a couple others. So I tend to look at the renown gain through that prism. When I see someone today, well, I'll use the word discussing. When I see someone today discussing the slow pace of the renown gain, I look at it through that prism of, geez, kid, it's this. Just be happy, Just go out there and play. Just go out there and play, and it will come. It will come quickly enough, and you'll be able to get into gear that makes you competitive in the tier 4 level. So that was the first issue I brought up or wanted to discuss today, because I thought that was, I just think that when it comes to renown gain, people talking about renown gain, I just think that it needs to be remembered, or it needs to be placed in that context. That again, to increase renown on your character today really isn't much harder than just deciding that you're going to walk outside in a rainstorm and wonder whether or not you're going to get wet. Well, of course you are. And if you play the game, if you just play the game, you will get everywhere you want to go when it comes to renown. All right. Top, any comment?
No. Fair assessment. What? Hold on. We gotta add. Just hit. I wish I could turn those off.
I'm sorry, I caught you. You dropped out on me there just for a second.
We gotta add.
Oh, okay.
Hit right as you asked me if I wanted to comment. We're back in 8 seconds. And we're back, chat. Sorry.
We're back.
We're
Go
back.
ahead.
But
okay, I saw.
Go ahead.
I saw the McDonald's commercial, and thought of the first episode of Loki season 2. But I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that on my own stream. All right, let's see. But anyway, Todd, you were gonna make a comment about the renown thing, please.
As far as the renown goes, yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said. There's not a whole lot more to say on it. It's how much ever how much ever renown you get, or however little you get, is pretty much dependent on you, and then of course if you get lucky and find good fights to get into. So I'm as far as the adjustment they did a few years ago, I hadn't seen a problem with it. Could it probably be tweaked a little bit? Some have said sure. Again, I'm always up for trying most anything. You know, how do you know if it's gonna work or not unless you tinker with it?
Yeah, and there are some issues with the server. I realize that when it comes to the current player base that we have, there's the percentage of players that have been on the server for longer than, say, 2 years is kind of small, and therefore by default, and this is not a criticism of anyone, so please don't anyone mistake it because it isn't, but by default there are issues and adjustments and changes that have been made on the server that will, for those who have only been playing for maybe 2 years or 3 at most, a lot of those issues that were addressed some time ago will of course be outside their sphere of experience. And I understand that, which is why I bring the issue up, that as someone who's been here, again, as I often say, I started playing in 2016, and with the one notable exception of time that I was gone, I've seen all the changes that have come down the pike. Everything that the server that those who run the server have done to try to change or influence the server or improve the server. I've seen it. I was here for all of it. So I've often said that they should make me the official Return of Reckoning historian. But yeah, um, that hasn't been done yet. But anyway, so that's just the prism that I look at things through, right? That's just the prism that I look at it, but through which I look at the events, which brings me now. Once again, I'm sorry. Before I get to the next question, Techno, who is one of the community managers, he also does some of the coding. Techno does a lot of the work on the live events and other things that go on the server. He will be joining us in a little bit, not too much longer. He will be joining us so he can get in on the conversation as well. Okay. Another question that was asked to Max 2 weeks ago was this one. There seems to be a stark imbalance of order-taking forts in a prime time with little to no resistance. That was part A of the question. And I want to address that first. Forts are not forts are forts today in the experience of playing Warhammer Online are just another place to go fight in the lakes. The number of crests that you may get could be a little different. I think I don't know this for sure because I don't really keep up with it. But I think the crest drops in the forts is a little bit higher simply because they're forts. But the importance of the forts has been neutered. The old system was that if you wanted to open up the city, either city, for attack, under the old system a few years back, was that you had to push 2 zones to include the fort, right? You push 2 zones and you include the fort. When you took the second fort, that would open the city, and you had 30 minutes from the time the second fort ended until the final. At different times during that 30 minutes, different groups could go in. Okay, well, that's all been changed. Cities now happen on a rotating basis. Hang on a moment, I'm about to sneeze. Okay, give me just a moment here, guys.
Techno will be joining us here soon, gang. For those of you just coming in, that may have missed it, we're just waiting on him now, and he's going to be discussing a few things. But Karis is handling the moderating for me because of how it stresses me trying to talk long periods.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Toth. Yeah, Techno will be coming in just a little bit. And hi, where was I? Okay, so today though, forts are just not as important as they used to be, and some of the forts are fun to fight in, as all of you well know. Others are not so much fun to fight in. But in essence, forts are just another RVR fight, like a keep assault. It's like an expanded keep assault, and people are choosing whether or not to defend them based on the number of players that are actually in the game at the moment. Does that bother me? No, it doesn't. If you want to see, and I may try to bring up the link here in a moment, but if you have any interest at all in seeing what forts used to be like, I have a number of videos on my YouTube page about fortress fights that took place some years ago. And there's one of them that's really good. It's a really good video. Got a lot of views about a fortress fight that we got into, but this was under the old system. So if you haven't, I'll get the link. When Techno comes in, I'll get the link and put it up just in case anybody's interested in sort of the nostalgia value, right, for what forts used to be like. However, today they're just an expanded keep assault, and personally, I preferred the old system where cities would open after you captured 2 zones. I did prefer that system, but now it is what it is, and it doesn't bother me. It does not bother me. You hear me? It does not bother me that sometimes forts are defended and sometimes they aren't, because sometimes that's just the way it is. Okay, part B of the question. Oh, and Max's answer was pretty much a much shortened version of that. That forts were what they were, and they really weren't looking at doing any changes anytime soon. It wasn't on their priority list, was the term that he used. Okay. Part B of the question was, we haven't had many outdoor city instances over the last year. Max's answer says he wasn't aware of that, but then I can understand that might not be something he would track, right? But it's true. Most of the city fights, the vast majority of the city fights, for some time now, have been in the inevitable city, have been in the IC. And there was one last night that I just happened to be in. And here's what I want to talk about based on that city fight. Before Techno gets here, I want to talk, and hopefully somebody listening will have a comment to make. I logged on last night, and the instant I logged on, the notification came up. The inevitable city fight will begin in 10 minutes. You may now queue, blah, blah, blah. So I flew to the IC. I queued solo. Now, usually when you queue solo, you're just asking for trouble, because the queuer system is designed to take all the solo queue guys and automatically pit them up against the pre-mains. Well, last night was an exception. Last night I queued in, and there was 2 pug groups on order. We had 3 healers in the whole 24. We had 3 healers, and Destruction had 2, and that was it. And I was surprised to see that. I really was. And there was another Majal. Majal on his Witch Elf was also streaming during the city last night, and he was in a pre-made, and he was up against an order pre-made. So last night, the queuer system actually put the pre-mades against the pre-mades, and the pugs against the pugs. And it was, as far as pug cities go, it was fun. Neither side completely rolled the other. We destroyed Destro in a few fights. They were able to hang on and hold the flag in the middle. I mean, it was just a good fight. We got a lot of kills, and it was the kind of fight that if you're going to pug a city, it's the kind of fight that you would want to have. I was also watching Majal on his stream, and you could tell that his was a very extended city. It lasted much longer, of course, because they were the pre-mates going after each other. And it just looked like everybody was having fun. Okay. Fun is why we're out here. To paraphrase Captain Kirk from Star Trek, fun is why we're out here.
Pre-made you're talking about may have been Retribution, because they faced off against some of Evil's crew last night.
I think you're right. I think it was Retribution, and if I recall correctly, Majal does run with in Evil's group a lot, right?
Yeah. My understanding, because they finished up as I popped into this Discord. Ret won the fight.
Well, in our city, we lost the city. We did. We lost the city. And Ravazar is in. Ravazar, give me a moment. I'll come back to your comment. But my point about that is you can lose a city instance, and then you can lose a city instance, right? And the manner in which the fight progressed last night, it was just a fun city. So I really, everybody wants to win, but logically and statistically, you're not going to win all the time. So if you have to lose one, it was a good fight. It was just a good fight. It was fun. And Ravazar says, if one don't have fun in a game, then there is no point. That's true. Okay, true words were never spoken. I wish I had I wish I had an applause. Toth, one of those buttons that you hit, and then it sounds like applause for Ravazar. But he's exactly right. That has always been my philosophy. That's always been my philosophy in this game, is that it is a game first and foremost, and people should be allowed to have fun with it. Okay, so that's my bid on the cities. I was happy to see that. Last night. On cities and forts and cities. Forts are what they are, and people are either going to defend them or they are not. It's a binary choice, but it doesn't bother me. I don't worry about the forts. You go there and you fight, and it's just like going to Chaos Waste and fighting, or just like going to the Badlands and fighting. There's really not much difference. It's just another place to go fight. So go and fight. Cities, my complaint with the city system lately had to do with the cure, right? The queuing system. And last night the queuing system actually got it right. So, okay. Again, we're waiting for the one, the only, the man himself. Techno is going to come in here soon. I saw him walking down the hall just a moment ago. I think he was looking for breakfast, but
I think this is what you're looking for, Karis.
I'm sorry, what?
I have an applause button.
Oh, do you? Okay. Okay. That's good. Um, okay, I'm going to ask a question here that maybe may, I don't know, may cause a little controversy, or at least hopefully somebody will have an opinion on it. And that is the question of Tomb of the Vulture Lord or the Lost Veil. Which would you like to see develop first? And my answer is I would much rather see the Lost Veil completed and released first. Tomb of the Vulture Lord. I rarely ever had any fun in Tomb of the Vulture Lord. Trying to run that place tended to lead to a lot of anger, people getting all bent out of shape, and why can't you do this? And then just as you get to the point of maybe winning one of the instances, the other team would show up, and now that was a cool part about it. The other team being able to being able to show up, but when it comes, but Lost Veil was just. I thought Lost Veil was fun. I thought some of the equipment you could get there was certainly worthwhile. Especially some of the weapons, the Lost Veil weapons that you could get were certainly good weapons. Especially the two-hand Swordmaster weapon was, was one at that time. At that time, was one of the best in the game. Tomb of the Vulture Lord just carries with it it's just another outlet for toxicity, in my opinion. Okay, Tomb of the Vulture Lord is just another outlet for toxicity. For everybody to go there and get mad about something. We got enough of that shit around here, sorry. Okay, we got enough of that stuff around here. So I would rather see I'd rather see the Lost Veil. I think the Lost Veil was just more fun. It was just more fun. So there. Anybody has a comment on that? Okay, great. Oh wait, Ravasar. There we go. I'm sorry, Ravasar does have one. Tomb of the Vulture Lord is much larger dungeon with 7 to 8 bosses, followed by a world boss spawn outside after. Granted, it had tons of bugs on live, but in my humble opinion, it was the most fun I've had in PvE on War. And Lost Veil was mid-tier dungeon. Okay, well that's true. I mean, the two. And Ravasar's right. That's true. The equipment scale, I guess, between Tomb of the Vulture Lord and Lost Veil, there was a huge dichotomy between the two. But anyway, he says, Dark Promise gear, if I recall, and really just a challenging end boss with the orbs you had to take by color. But Tomb of the Vulture Lord was far better if you could disregard the bugs. Now, perhaps before I get on to the next comment, Sap Bladder has a comment as well. Before I get on to let me add the qualification to my comments about Tomb of the Vulture Lord, because part of my feelings about it, of course, have to do with the fact that we rarely ever had any fun in there, and So am I all excited about being able to go back? No, I'm not. That's the short version. Okay, Sap says you was only able to get into Tomb if you own Land of the Dead, and let's be honest, Order never wins Land of the Dead. So why would they? So how would they get into it? That's a good point.
I think I have an answer to that, and
Go
Max
ahead.
touched on it. Their intent, if I understood him right, they're intending to add more PVE to Land of the Dead, so they may end up setting that dungeon up to where it doesn't require you to win Land of the Dead to gain access to it.
You're right, Todd. Max did say that. You're right.
So
he did say
that would
Yeah.
alleviate the chokehold Destro has on Land of the Dead. But the whole reason they have the chokehold is because Order won't correct the things that it keeps doing that lead to the defeats, and that's of their own doing. That's the player base.
Yeah, but if you don't mind that particular question, I would rather avoid strategy and tactics than Land of the Dead.
I'm not getting into that. I simply wanted to answer.
Yeah.
Splat.
No, not it. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna pull Tosh in.
Tosh is coming in. That's good. Wherever it, but I do understand Kirasana thinking. Also, Lost Veil would most likely be easier to do first. Let's stuff to get right. Well, I appreciate that, Ravisar. That's very gracious. I appreciate that because when I talk about Land of the Dead and the Lost Veil, I, of course, am not. Again, I have to keep saying this. Again, I am not attempting to criticize anyone who would like to see Land of the Dead open up. I mean, if you enjoy Land of the Dead, I'm sorry, not Land of the Dead, but Tomb of the Vulture Lord. If you enjoy Tomb of the Vulture Lord, more power to you, man. More power to you. If you enjoyed Tomb of the Vulture Lord, thought it was great, would like to see it, that's all well and good. You know what I'm saying? Gee, that's all well and good. I just prefer Lost Veil, and I think Lost Veil would be I guess a good mid-tier PvE zone to open up and get running. And okay, but I've spoken about that. Another thing is with the mythic orange weapons that dropped after the world boss, after TVO come into the game, because that will be interesting if they do. Okay, that is a question that I can address. And actually, whenever Techno gets here, I have to say that loud enough for him to hear me. That he can talk about that too, because there is a plan. Let me just say this, guys. There is a plan for the Tomb of the Vulture Lord weapons. Okay, and the Tyrant gear. There is a plan. They have a plan. Larry Longbow. There's a joke there, but I know that Larry Longbow. I swear, man. All right. Has there been any news of the arrival of the Fedora vendor? And I'm assuming you're talking about a hat vendor. I do not know. Larry Longbow, I do not know. Again, we can ask Techno that question. Okay, did Tosh make it in?
Yeah, he's here. I had to mute him for a sec so I could try to mess with Discord settings, and I unmuted him. So yeah, he can talk.
Okay, Tosh, if you are there,
I
Feel
know.
free to chime in.
I know he's listening. He said he was in his car, so I don't know if he's won't be.
Oh,
I'm technically here if you can hear me.
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, I can hear you.
I'm just driving.
So you're going with vehicular RoR warfare. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing the new server version of the mobile ROR.
That's
Well,
funny.
It's called Clash of ROR.
no, you remember, you get double renown for every electric vehicle that you blast off the road. So, uh, oh man, tough crowd, tough crowd. Okay, the Fedora vendor again. Techno might know more about that than me, but I have no information about that particular issue. Tosh is kiting in a car. You rolled a white lion. Yeah.
We're just waiting
Okay.
on techno now, gang.
Oh, is he coming in?
I'm waiting on him. I'm eyeballing Discord, so as soon as he pops in, I can pull him in.
He's still eating his breakfast.
Slow eater.
Yeah. All right.
It's also almost 1 o'clock.
Well, I talked about that a little bit earlier when we started that in our household here on Friday and Saturday nights we all tend to stay up way too late. So on Saturdays, 12 o'clock noon is usually the time we all start to roll out of bed. I made the sacrifice to get up early so I could be here to help out, but he's eating his cereal, so he'll come in as soon as he's finished.
Again, guys, that's the link from the previous podcast. If you want to see the exact list of questions Max answered, it's all right there, so you can kind of keep pace with what Karis is talking about if you didn't catch the last one.
Yeah, I still need to listen to it myself.
Okay. While we're waiting, another issue that tends to be talked about here and there. I see it enough that I think it warrants another discussion here. Max was asked 2 weeks ago about new armor sets. And the question was worded, new armor sets bring a lot of hype and population boom to the server. That is true. What is the current stance towards Sovereign being absolute highest top gear after its release 2 years ago? Will new and higher tier ever come to Return to Reckoning, or is the power gap a worry? I want to start with the power gap issue. And if anyone has a comment, please feel free to chime in. But my view on the power gap is stop whining and play the game. Basically, that's it. But specifically, I will say that the power gap it doesn't last as long as some people make it out to be. When you hit 40-40, say, and you get into Conqueror gear or start to get into, the Sentinel gear, whatever else, Vank, that I was trying to remember. Okay, like the Vanquisher gear, Oppressor gear, stuff like that. Conqueror gear again drops like rain. Now I want to make this point. I was here. I was here in the winter of '47 when Conqueror gear was first introduced into the game. And when Conqueror gear was first introduced into the game, it was hard to get, but then it was the top end gear. I mean, you really had to work to get Conqueror gear. Well, now it drops like rain or like apples from a tree. It's easy. And the Vank Oppressor stuff isn't that much harder. So the gear gap it's a thing. I agree. The gear gap is a thing for a while, but not as long as it's not the issue that it once was on the server. Especially with the renown gain changes that have gone into effect.
Techno's
Max
here.
addressed the. I'm sorry. Let me finish this real quick. Max also addressed the issue of the sovereign being the absolute highest for the time being. That is going to be true. And I think that putting in a new gear set that would be more powerful than sovereign at this point right now is it's a double-edged sword, and because it would increase the power gap. There would be a lot of people like me on certain characters. You know, I've got 50,000 War Crest on one of my characters just sitting in my backpack because I don't really have much to do with them. And if they introduce a new armor set, you know, odds are I'd be able to buy all of it the first day it came out. There are other people in the game just like that. There are a lot of other people in the game in that exact same position. So I think they would have to be very careful about introducing a higher armor set than Sovereign. Not that it couldn't be done, but you know, I just think there'd have to be a bit more restrictions on how you got it, other than just do you have enough crest or high enough renown? Okay. I like Solve. Larry Longbow says, I like Saw being the high set, and then you get alternatives that are lower but are still super useful. Yes, that's a good way to look at it. There are a lot of combos, right? A lot of armor combos that you can make. Okay, Techno, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
And all right, so real quick, ladies and gentlemen, let me just point out once again that this is the Toth Monra podcast. Toth Monra is with us. Say hello, please.
Here.
And again, for those who may have joined late, my purpose here is just to help Toth Monra out. This is his podcast. I'm just here to help him out. And, you know, because he made that request some time ago, and I'm happy to do it so that he does not have to do all of the talking. Also with us in his car is Tosh. Tosh is out playing bumper cars somewhere on the highways and byways of of this fine country we call America. And with us now, from the Twilight Zone, is Techno. Techno, say hello, please.
Hello, hello.
And we appreciate that. So, Techno is a part of the team, and you know, anytime I mention the fact that Techno is part of the team, I think about that scene. God, what was the name of that? Well, The Untouchables, right? That movie, The Untouchables, where Al Capone gets up and talks about being part of the team, and he's got the big baseball bat in his hand. But anyway, that's another issue. All right. Uh, so, the first thing I would like for you to talk about, Techno, is you had mentioned something about the rollback.
Yep, the
What?
favorite topic that's been on the tongue for the week.
Yeah, the favorite topic of the week. So, what can you add in here, please?
Oh, I think kind of apart from what Kanelang mentioned over the past few days, we're still working on like the kinks of it, like trying to find the perfect. Because we're planning a compensation package, more or less, but we're still figuring out the odds and ends of it to like make sure we do it right because there's a wide range of what people lost over the week. 'Cause, like you have some people that didn't really lose much, or like some people that were only logged in, say, 5 minutes over the week, or you have people that were on for 50 to 60 hours during that week, then they lost like 1,000 crests, or a couple hundred gold, and a couple other things that would take a long time to procure over that week.
Would this be a sorry, excuse me, the package you're talking about? You're trying to work out something that would be uniform for everyone, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Which means,
Max
of
is
course,
working on the odds and ends of it to make sure.
okay. So some people might get back a little more than they actually lost. Other people might get back less than they actually lost. But everyone would receive, some form of recompensation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds perfectly fine to me. Ravazar says a nice compensation for me would be to delete all gobos from the game. Toth, if you can hit your applause again. Uh, delete all gobos from the game. All but one, I think. All but one. Have one gobo running around, and then the live event can be, hunt this guy down like the great white rhinoceros. For those of you familiar with that story, that's an old story from American literature, The Hunt for the Great White Rhino, that I'm making reference to. But anyway, um, the second thing I would like to ask you, Techno, Max made the comment, I was listening to it earlier. Max did make the comment that the goal for the server was one live event per month.
Hmm.
Those were his exact words in this case. Those were his exact words. One live event per month, each different, you know. So what can you tell us about that, please?
Well, basically, it's kind of like what we can do over the time period, because kind of what we have now is a 3-year live event schedule. So I think the one event to touch on would be like Keg Zen. That's happened every year, pretty much. But basically, more or less, like every year there would be kind of like a similar vein event, but different enough. So like from Keg's End, like next year would be kind of like Keg's End, but different enough. Then like the next year would return and have more rewards and be a little more unique than say the last time it came back around.
Well, when it comes to the live events, and everybody forgive me, while Techno was talking there, I was trying to eat a little bit of my breakfast. But anyway, when it comes to the live event, um, I'm a huge fan, right? I'm a huge fan of live events. And I think not only can they be a lot of fun and a nice diversion for the player base, I think they're just positive in their effect overall. Now, some of the live events are more fun than others, but again, statistically, that's going to be true, right? That's just the nature of the beast. But if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is you want to create enough live events that over a 3-year period, in essence, you would run 36 different in one degree or another live events.
Yeah, more or
Is that
less.
more or less? Okay. All right. I think that's a great thing. Now let me ask you this question. Let's suppose that one of our viewers or somebody who hears this if they watch the YouTube video that Toth will put up later. Let's suppose someone has an idea for a live event, like something other than you know, remove all the gobos. I mean something something legit, right? Something legit. Somebody had an idea for a live event. Where would they submit that idea that somebody like you or one of the other team members could look at it and evaluate it and say, okay, well maybe we can do that or whatever.
They
What?
would have to send a message or a forum PM to Echoline since he's the live event guy.
Okay, so they could DM him on Discord.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I think I would support that. I think if you guys are looking for material for that many live events, um, I think that would be a worthy endeavor for people on the player base who have an idea about something to go into a live event. And so, if you have one out there, sports fans, just submit it to Echoline, and I'm sure he will give it due consideration. But anyway, I like I said, I'm a big fan of the live events, and specifically, I want to know if you know the answer to this question. The live event that had the invade the other city mechanic as part of it. Do you know if that's going to roll back around anytime soon, or what this?
Potentially, yes. It'll come back.
Okay, potentially, yes, maybe.
I don't want to give an exact yet, like an exact yes or no.
Okay, all right. Um, okay. So before I go back to a general question, do you have another issue?
Uh, well, for the Seas of Slaughter event, I know the Pirate Hat vendor isn't up yet, but that's mainly because of the rollback that threw a bigger wrench into that. But we're
I'm
still working
sorry.
on it.
Wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. Uh, I missed part of what you said. Say that again, please.
I know for the Seas of Slaughter event that the Pirate Hat vendor isn't up yet, but that's mainly because of the rollback that threw a big wrench into that. But we're still working
Okay.
on it to get them
Maybe
up.
that may have been what Larry Longbow was asking about earlier. The Fedora vendor.
Yeah,
That's what okay, with the live event. So you are working on that. Okay, so
yeah.
there you go, Larry Longbow. You did get an answer after all. Um, that is being worked on. Okay, here's another question. Isn't the duration of the event slot item 60 days? Um, then isn't one live event 2 months more correct? Well, not all, I suppose. Not all of the event items are 60 days, right? That's not an automatic. Is that correct?
Most of them are, but like not all the live events would exactly be a month away. Like they'd be, say, like a month and 2 weeks away, a month and 3 weeks away, or
No, I'm sorry.
yeah.
He was talking about like if you win uh the live event item that gives the stat enhancement, right? Are those always 60 days?
Most of them.
Most of them are. Okay. Mounts, however, the mounts can be up to 90 days or 120 days,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and I missed a comment. Let me see if I can scroll back up because somebody was talking about what their favorite live event was. Let me see if I can scroll up here. Um, now I can't find it. Oh, Larry Longbow says gobos are too cute to be deleted, but shave the dwarves. Yeah, yeah, I agree. All right. Nah, that would take away their whole identity, man. If you made them shave. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Ravsar says my absolute fave event was the vampire one with a different cloak quest. Techno, refresh my memory. What is he referring to? The vampire?
That was
I,
the Hexanoct event back in June last year, which introduced the cosmetic weapons
1
and
second, ad break just hit.
let me know when I can continue.
Oh, gonna be a minute. It's like a minute 55 second.
I hope Tosh didn't crash.
No,
He was here for a minute.
he's still here. He just muted. Imagine once I post this up and it mentions the fact that you guys are confirmed working on an additional reimbursement package. That'll go through the roof.
I'm pretty sure K Lang already mentioned it in the post somewhere on the forums or an announcement.
Yeah, but people have a tendency to not read the forums.
Yeah, I don't read the forums that much anymore. I used to follow the topics that came up there, but they are rarely, interesting anymore. Speaking of that,
And
though, I want
we're
to go ahead.
back.
I'm good to go again?
Yep, can continue. Techno, we're back live, guys.
Alright, so about the vampire event, it was called Hexanoct that came out last year in June, which introduced the of the dead weapons, which were the cosmetic weapons, and it had, I believe, 14 new cloaks. It was Vampire Counts themed.
I kind of, for some reason, I must not have been that impressed with that particular live event because I really don't remember much of the. I really don't remember much of it. I think I got one of the cloaks, um, but that aside, that's just that aside completely. Uh, I guess the question is, eventually that one will come back around as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I can see the wisdom in. I can see the wisdom in rotating the live events like that, so that people don't get bogged down with the same thing. Well, as I've said before, variety is the spice of life, right? And the more varied events that you give people to participate on, the higher the probability is that people will participate. And no, I didn't use Chat GPT to write that. I just made that up. I just made that up myself. But it's true, right? The more variety someone has to engage in, the higher the probability that they will engage. That's just the way it is. So I'm always glad to hear that you guys are working on different live events. And I think that's good for the overall health of the server. All right, now I have, let's see. Well, I was going to put a link in to one of my own. I talked about earlier the old Fortress Assault.
You have permission to post links.
I'll get it in a minute. But again, that was just in case, just in case there was anyone who wanted to see for the nostalgia value, right? For the nostalgia value. And Larry Longbow says, I like the Skaven PvE scenario. That was a fun idea. The Skaven PvE scenario. Some people enjoy that one, some people don't. That's one of those sort of either/or things, right, guys? I mean, I've very rarely encountered someone who had an in between opinion when it came to this Skaven scenario. That you either love the thing or you hate it. But Techno, do you have any information on when or if that one may come back up?
It's normally the April Fool's event every year, so probably April Fool's next year.
Unless you're April fooling us, right?
Who knows, maybe.
Oh man. All right. Okay, Toth. Do you have anything before I move on to another topic?
No, not really. As far as the events go, the only thing that I would say that I really wish the devs would consider doing is making the mounts permanent. And the reason I say that is that's the one thing. That's one of the few things for me that's ever been of any real interest is collecting mounts. That's part of what deters me from doing the events is because I don't like to waste my time. And doing stuff that I can only keep for a short period of time, I'm like, yeah, the event's very interesting and well and nicely done, but it just seems hollow to me. That would be the one thing that I would say I wish we could do is keep the mounts permanently, because I know a score of people that enjoy having that pig to ride around on for whatever reason. But that's just me. Aside from that, I don't really have any other comments.
Well, Toth, I'm gonna let me stick to this for a moment because, excuse me, I'm going to respectfully disagree on that one point. Um, that the temporary mount aspect of it um, doesn't bother me, and for different reasons. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You know, you go to all the trouble to get like a unicorn mount, and then it goes away after 90 days. Well, to me, that just gives you incentive to go out and get, the next 90 or 120-day mount, whatever it may be. Like the Pegasus mount, and I like the fact that they rotate. Like right now, I'm riding the the unicorn mount. It lags out, I think, in another 18 or 19 days, and by then I'm assuming that another live event will have come along that you can get another mount off of. But even if not, the next one comes up, like the Pegasus mount. I really like the Pegasus mount. The Land of the Dead mounts. That's a good question, Techno. You were part of the team, right, for that, weren't you, when they did the Land of the Dead mounts?
No.
You weren't? Okay.
No.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, are you talking about the permanent Arabian horse?
Well, no, they were zombie mounts.
Oh, the Hexanock mounts, yeah.
Yeah. The Hecnomach, is that what you said?
Hexanock.
Hexanock, okay. But the zombie mounts were cool, and I don't much care for the Griffin mounts. If I had a permanent Griffin mount, in the old days, the Griffin mounts used to be known of as snitch mounts, because that's how people got them. Was ratting out somebody else they thought was doing something bad on the server, so everybody called them snitch mounts. But I don't really care for the Griffin mounts. They're too big. The wingspan. People use them to try to block your line of sight. Even when you're sitting at the mailbox, somebody will ride up and and cover the mailbox or whatever. So I don't care about the Griffin mounts. I'd rather not have.
I get what you're saying. For me, that's one of my pastimes. It's something I did very heavily in while I was collecting all the mounts. I've got like 267. But that's just me. I don't speak for everyone, but I do hear a lot on both sides that wish particular mounts would become permanent or a chance to be permanent.
Well, now that tough on that point, I agree with. The chance to be permanent is something that I think could be added into a live event. And in other words, if the zombie mounts, for those who remember the zombie mounts, those things were so cool. I mean, they really were. Those things were so cool that if there was an added feature to the live event that you could go out and do, all this, that, and the other thing, and come up with a permanent one, I would do it.
We kind of have a few ideas we're toying around with for mounts. One of the big ideas we have is like the mount wouldn't necessarily expire, but by the time the event rolls back around, you would get the same duration of it again. It's like you would keep the mount, but say like it was a 60-day one. Like once the event rolls back around, you'd get the 60-day version of it back, but you'd only be able to use it for those 60 days.
Interesting. Look forward to hearing more on that.
Yeah, I know. And if Tasha's still out there, I will go ahead and reference him because I've heard him discuss before his views on the whole carrot and stick aspect, I guess, of the server, that carrots only go so far, and people get tired of chasing carrots, and I understand his points. I mean, I do. I'm not criticizing Tosh. I understand his points, but I think it is largely dependent on what the carrot is. I think there are some things in that are available, some items that are available to be on this server that would generate a lot of interest and would generate a lot of participation, regardless of how hard you made it to get. And one of them, again, I keep bringing this up, one of them again are the aviator goggles. Everybody who plays the fracking game wants a pair of aviator goggles, but they are the hardest, in my opinion, they're one of the hardest items to get. And I got my first pair, and I say my first pair because I have 3 of them now. But I got my first pair of aviator goggles as part of a live event. It was the only time they were offered. This was a long time ago, man. This was some years ago. But it was the only time they were offered as the end quest item for a live event. And it was a huge live event. You had to do a lot of stuff in order to get the aviator goggles, right? And that particular live event, to my knowledge, has never been repeated. So I guess since Techno's here, my question would be, do you have any inside information on why the server is so protective, so stingy, I suppose, when it comes to offering up the aviator goggles, and if they were ever be part of a live event again?
They're a hot ticket item, but they're a part of the egg event that comes back around every year, but we're looking to put it in a couple more events.
Okay. Can you expand on that, please?
In regards to the coming in other events, not yet, but they are part of the egg event that comes around every year.
And the egg event would be in
April.
Unless you're fooling us.
It's in April.
Okay.
I have something I want to bring up because the guys in red are raving about this right now. As soon as I mentioned that a further care package is being worked on, an idea that I've heard Twitter around with is making the Rams rideable, where somebody could ride on it. So the question is, would it be possible to make the Rams to where people could actually take a seat on it and as it's being pulled, or however?
I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe.
Fair. I'm not asking for a yes or no. I just pass along. We're curious as if it's even something that could even be attempted.
You would probably have to make a new model for it, and then you would have to rig character models on it, then rig character animations to it as well, and give it abilities too.
Alright, Techno, did you see Ravazar's question?
Yeah,
I
can go ahead and answer that now.
Okay.
We do have plans to introduce it for other tanks like the Empire, Chaos, and Dwarfen's green skin.
I swear, man, your teachers at school must sometimes get as frustrated with you as I sometimes do. What they'll ask you a question like, Connor, can you explain the political ramifications of the end of World War II? And you get like a 3-word answer. I mean, it's, oh man, you got to learn how to how to add in stuff as to fill time here and there.
You may want to read Larry's comment concerning what was just brought up with the RAM.
All right, Larry Longbow says, I wish other RAM passengers other than the main rammer could see how many were in the RAM, so you can yell in region when it isn't proper full.
That's
Man,
probably a Max thing. He would know the answer to that if he could do it.
what, the RAM?
Yeah, kind of like right now, it's like if you are leading the RAM, you can see how many people are on it, but
Yeah.
if you're not leading the RAM, you kind of have to do eye work to figure it out.
Well, usually people, I mean, I don't involve myself in that many, depending on what character I'm playing. I don't involve myself in that many keep assaults, but I've always seen it that if the RAM is somebody will notice that there are not enough people on the RAM, right? And it goes up in region chat. But yeah, that's true. If you're controlling the RAM, you can see how if it's full or not. And what I usually do on those rare occasions where I have cause to worry about it is you can rotate your camera angle and sort of look down, right? You can look down at the RAM, and then it's easy to count how many people are on there. But okay. No, I've forgotten what. I did want to bring up an issue. Uh, let's see. We've got. I have an issue I do want to bring up myself, but let's go to one more question before I get to that. All right. And again, Techno, this is something that you may be able to talk about. I've talked about before that the quest, and Toth has done a lot. For those of you who may not know, Toth Monra, and this is the Toth Monra podcast, but Toth Monra has done a lot of work on the quest lines, right? And you still do, right? You're still working on it, right,
Yeah,
Todd?
I'm working on the Orkin Goblin quest guide, showing all the known quests and hidden stuff with cosmetics.
Okay. So Toth Monra is doing a lot of work on the quest lines. And what I would like to see is an update of the quest lines so that the rewards, particularly the monetary rewards, right, were increased. Because one reason, not the only reason, this is primarily a PvP game, I get that, all right, but one reason that a lot of the quest lines are not undertaken is because what's the point? It's like go and kill 500 orcs of Schmagenrog while destroying the dragon of Vampira, and then you come back and your reward is 20 silver. I think the monetary rewards should be increased a bit, just to make it a bit more attractive, right? Do you have anything that you can talk about along those lines, Techno?
That is planned, yes. Almost all the quests will. I think right now there's probably around 30% of the quests probably have money, but we're gonna make it so when we do, parts of the quest rework, updated quest rewards, that almost all of them now will give some money, or if they don't, like a decent piece of gear.
Well, some of the gear is. I mean, there are two reasons why I'll go out and do some of the PVE quests. One is as a diversion, because and I've talked about this before. A lot of the quests, the PVE quests, are just fun. They're fun to do. It's a nice diversion. Get away and do something else for a little while. Um, and then the other thing is the gear that you get from them is all salvageable, and a lot of it gives, especially the tier 4 quest, will give things that you can turn into talisman mats that are worth having. That's another reason to do it. But it's just something. And Ravazar, I'll get to your question in a moment. But the monetary values again, and I tried to make a joke about it, but it's just true. You go out and you go through this entire huge quest line, and you come back for the final reward, and the guy says, "Okay, here's 20 silver." just, I mean, in context of playing the game, maybe you don't need it, but it just seems like it could be, it should be higher. All right, Ravazar says, but aren't the rewards more to help you during the leveling process and not after you hit 40? I mean, yes, the primary, you're right, the primary reward for quest, of course, is the experience to help people level on the experience side of the house. That's true. However, I still think the monetary value should be upped on them. And go ahead.
No, so finish what you're saying. Oh, sorry, I unmuted myself.
Oh, all right. And as an example, I was, and I think if I remember right, I did ask Max about this 2 weeks ago. But for those of you who remember, there used to be repeatable quests in the tier 4 in war camps, right? In like Dragon Wake and Prague and Thunder Mountain, and then there were reciprocal vendors in the same zones for destruction as well, where you could take a repeatable quest. It was a kill quest, and every time you completed it, you got 3 gold. Well, they took those out of the game. Why? Why take those out of the game? I've yet to understand why those repeatable quests would be removed from the game. 3 gold for just carrying a quest with you and getting the kills. What is 3 gold's not going to break the bank? What I've never understood why those were taken out, and so that's another reason I think it's a minor point. I admit, everyone, it's a minor point, but it's just something that I thought should be addressed. Okay. The epic quest lines. Ravisar brings up the epic quest lines. I thought were a lot of fun. I'm not sure. I think over time, the epic quests have become sort of passe, simply because so many new gear sets and weapon sets have been introduced that they aren't as important as they once were. What are your thoughts about that, Techno?
I think over time the epic quests, like back then, they were worthwhile because the gear you got for them were actually kind of decent, but over time I wouldn't say they're worth as much. I still think some of their wars are still kind of decent, but I think the time to put in, the amount of XP you do get kind of hinders the overall effectiveness of the item you do get. So I would hope that those can be bumped up a little bit so they seem a little more appealing than what they are now.
Well, as I recall, I don't. Now it's been a while. I admit it's been a while since I've done one of the epic quests. But when I did them, I remember doing them on my White Lion and gaining like 3 experience levels just in the completion of the Empire Tier 4 epic quest line, right? And it was a great way to level. And actually, when I was leveling my Shadow Warrior, I chose not to do the epic quest because I didn't want to level that fast. So I guess like everything else in the game, it's a two-sided coin. All right, Ravisar says maybe increase the rewards of epic quest weapons, say Sentinel level, with a different process. Yeah, Sentinel gear, I think, and maybe Techno again, you can comment on this, but I think both the Red Eye gear and the Sentinel gear, again over time, largely has become stuff that you get just so you can go out and get Bloodlord gear.
I will disagree on that with Red Eye and Sentinel.
Why?
It kind of depends on the class, but I would say Red Eye is very good for healers, and you can sit in for a while. And Sentinel is also very good, which you can sit in for a while.
Well, Sentinel gear for it, and again, this is my experience only, I suppose. But Sentinel gear for a Swordmaster, Sentinel gear for a Witch Elf were very good to mix and match with. There were some combos that you could do. And yeah, and the weapon, the Sentinel weapon is also good too, Ravzar, that's true. But when you talk about just the armor, for a Witch Elf, a Swordmaster especially, and I thought it was a little less effective for the White Lion. But and then on my Archmage, everything is crap. I mean, I'm serious, man. When it comes to an Archmage, everything is crap. That's been my experience. But anyway, that they were Sentinel gear were very good to mix and match with other sets, right? And I just suppose again it's just an issue of the time that has gone by since those sets were released. So okay, Ravisar says weapon skill, Sentinel weapons, yep. And I sometimes, even on a Swordmaster, I think there are times when I've upped my weapon skill. I remember one famous evening being made fun of on my Twitch stream because I was running a higher weapon skill set. But the reason I was doing it was I was testing, as I understand it, and Techno, you can confirm this or whatever, but as I understand it, the auto attack, the damage that you do off auto attack for every class is physical damage. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And weapon skill affects physical damage, correct?
Half and half. Half strength, half weapon skill.
Okay. So weapon skill, then let me rephrase that. Weapon skill enhances physical damage.
Yeah, half and half. Strength and weapon skill do both enhance it.
Right. Okay, so that's why I was using it. And see, Larry says Sentinel and Veil Walker combo is amazing for healer when PvE cheesing. Veil Walker? Is that from
It's
refresh my
from
memory?
Hunter's Vale.
Huntersville. Okay, right. Okay. If say the epic tier quest weapons do not on par but slightly different, it would pique interest in those quests. Well, I agree, Ravisar. I agree. And if anybody can, anybody can see his comment. Weapon skill improves armor pin, so in those terms it goes. Well, see, I guess the point I was getting at is people were talking at one time, and many times over the years, people have asked a question: why, for a class like a sword master, do the armor sets even have weapon skill in them? Why? Why? People say, why? Why you're doing this? Why? And the answer that was given, the official answer that was given, is because it does up the damage that you can inflict on your auto attack, and that's what I was testing out, and it's true. It's true, and I actually put it in one of my videos that if you're using the add-on, what's it called, Techno, the one that shows you like Billy Joe Jim Bob killed by your ether dance. Is that part of enemy?
Yeah.
Say again, death blow, right? Thanks, death blow, right? But if you're using death blow 2, and let's say you have the Fortress Greatsword, and it comes up on your screen, Billy Joe Jim Bob killed by your Fortress Greatsword, that indicates a death blow. I'm sorry, an auto attack kill. That indicates an auto attack kill. And if you're playing a Shadow Warrior and it says your Fortress Longbow killed Ravizar, whatever, that's an auto attack kill. So that's what I was testing out. And I did a video on playing my Shadow Warrior where I got a lot of auto attack kills. All right. Larry Longbow says it's a well-known fact that a character that looks good performs 50% better. That's true. Therefore, we need more appearance, items, and options. It's also true, Larry. You may not know this. You may not be aware of this. But it's also true that the harder you push your keyboard keys, the more damage you do. That was added in some years ago, right, Techno?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, the harder you hit your keys, the more damage you do. But no, Larry's got a good point. Larry's got a good point. And okay, I have one more issue I want to approach, but before we do that, Toth, I know you're out there, buddy, and let me just say once again for everyone who may have come in a little bit later, this is the Toth Monra podcast. And I am only here because to help Toth Monra out, and because it's sometimes, it can sometimes be a little taxing for him to do all of the talking. So I'm more than happy to be here to help, but it is his podcast, and he is still in charge. So, Toth, do you have anything you want to throw in right now?
At the moment, not really. Pretty much, I just do want to say thanks, Techno, for coming in and talking about the fact that devs are doing some further stuff with the rollback issue and the other things he talks about, because it helps get the information out to the community so they're not left wondering if is the staff listening, do they even care. So it does put a voice to what goes on. So that's
no worries.
That's
Yeah.
And as Max said, Max said it in the last podcast. He's looking forward to being on the show more for future stuff, so that you guys as a whole can share information with the community and have more open dialogue. So my only thing I would say to everybody listening is I've facilitated opening the lines of communication. Now it's up to you guys to follow through with it. So if you have questions, ideas, as Techno said, event ideas, send them to Acclaim. I mean, I've listened to the community rave about wanting the devs or CMs to listen or to at least come talk. Well, we've managed to start that happening. So you guys can't continue to say, well, they don't listen. They do. Case in point, you got one of the CMs in here talking to you. Take the opportunity. Speak up. That's
Okay.
all.
Now there's a question in chat from Zerucio. Why Divine Shock AoE punt from Warrior Priest has such a low landing chance? I am going to let Techno address that issue because I don't know the answer. So bail me out here, buddy.
I've noticed that ability is essentially for Doc as well. It's kind of finicky. So if there kind of is an issue with it, it'd probably get fixed in the ability rework.
When Zerucio says low landing chance, does that specifically refer to the chance that the punt will actually work? Is that what he's...
I noticed it tends to get parried or blocked a lot, so you kind of have to do it when you're behind somebody.
Okay. Is there a difference? Let me ask it this way. Again, sword masters have the AoE knockback gusting wind, which is, as you know, and people, there are two issues about it. An ability like gusting wind, which is an AoE general knockback. It isn't a punt, it's an AoE general knockback that affects everybody within a certain range. But the way I've always looked at gusting wind is that it's an interrupt, because it, just like get to the choppa, interrupts whatever ability somebody happens to be using at the time. So does gusting wind, right? And so you use it as an interrupt to temporarily, not really to knock people away from you. That's sort of a sidebar. You use it to interrupt what everybody's doing at that particular moment. Okay. So do the mechanics on something like gusting wind, are they basically, when I say mechanics, the coding, right? The coding mechanics, is it different from Divine Shock? Do they work in different manners? Are they both sort of based off the same coding?
Gusting wind and the Black Orc equivalent are more of like I think it's like a 75% circle that it'll check for and hit with, instead of like with Divine Shock and the Dock equivalent. It's more of like a forward half cone that it checks for and hits.
Okay. What you meant to say is 240 degrees, not 75%. I guess it's the same thing. I'm sorry. Never mind. All right. Continue.
That
What?
was pretty much it.
Okay. Well, all right. So you're saying that if I'm on my swordmaster, or the Black Orc is standing there with the big dumb look on his face, and he uses his, we use our the AOE knockback. It only actually covers 240 degrees of the 360-degree circle.
I think so. I'm not exactly 100% sure on that.
Okay. Because I've always, well, all right. Because I mean, many times I've seen it affect everybody, and then sometimes I've seen it affect almost everybody. But I've always attributed that to immunities, because I think you can be for gusting wind, unless I'm just mistaken. Um, if you have the immunities to crowd control, it will it will you will not be subject to the gusting wind. Is that true?
Yeah, if you have immunity, you won't get knocked
Yeah,
back.
okay. That's what I always attribute it to. All right. Ravazar said, as a lore nerd, I would love to see an ogre event. A lot of cool ogre NPC in game, mainly in high pass. That would be cool, as it is also a neutral race, so it could make an interesting event. Especially if you put in ogres can pick up rocks and throw them at you. That would be, I mean, that would be cool, right? You're trying to approach the ogre lore or whatever, and all of a sudden these boulders come flying in. Which reminds me, Techno, and maybe you know something about this. Uh, I I once put in a suggestion that actually got Wargrimner's attention, and the suggestion was that you add in a feature every now and then. That every now and then, right? Uh, Not so often as to be predictable, but often enough that you have to worry about it. That when you're fighting in a zone, all of a sudden, you know, the wrath of the gods comes down, and there's like a huge lightning bolt or some event that just sort of nukes a particular area if you happen to be in it. And he kind of liked that idea. He said that's kind of he said he thought that was that could be a good idea. Um, have you heard anything along those lines?
I have not, no.
Okay, I was just curious. Um, Larry Longbow says maybe it's to compensate for the Rune Priest AOE punting you miles away, especially if you fall down the hill. Uh, one thing that bothers me about the longer punts, it just seems like, and I could be wrong about this too, but this is just my observation. The blackguards have always had the big, huge single target punt, where if they set it up right, they can punt you halfway around the world. It seems that more and more classes over the time have been given almost the same thing, chosen. I think the only difference between the blackguard single target punt and the chosen single target punt is the arc. The arc that you take when you've been punted by a blackguard is flatter, and the one that you take when you hit by a chosen is more parabolic, which means higher, right? You go
Yeah.
higher, and I, you know,
They
personally,
both have the same airtime, but Chosens and Knights you go more upwards, while Blackguard is more of a straight shot.
and Ravisar says Ironbreaker has same pump but need a tactic for it. I've never played an Ironbreaker because they're stinking dwarves, so I don't know the answer to that question. Is that right, Techno?
I think so. It's been a while since I looked at Ironbreaker. I know they get a tactic for a punt, but I don't recall if it's the same distance. It might be more same to the Knight and Chosen.
All right. Um, I probably I probably should have said something about stinking drawers when I'm on Toth Monder's because he's playing his Slayer right now. But no offense, buddy.
I'll kill you
Okay,
later.
to deal with it later. All right, all right. Uh, Ravisar says he's not sure we can be friends after that dwarf. Well, yeah. Have you ever heard how dwarves talk about elves? So we're kind of even. But okay, we've been on for almost the usual 2-hour period. So let me just, I was kind of hoping Tosh would have been able to participate more, but I know he was driving. I know he was out in his car. So hopefully we'll hear from Tosh again soon. As he hasn't been streaming much lately. I have not been streaming much lately either. I've kind of been taking a break. There's other stuff to do sometimes. Just as a shameless bit of self-promotion, later on my stream tonight, I am going to talk about Loki Season 1, Episode 1. I will not take up Toth Monra's time with that here. I will just say that I'll talk about it later. And if you have any interest in that, you'll know where to find me. I think there was one more question. If I can remember what page it's on here. Let's see. Okay, we did that one. Oh, yeah, okay. I did want to bring this up. This will be our final question here for today's edition of Toth Monra's podcast. And then we'll all move on. And I appreciate the participation that it's been going on in the Twitch chat. I really do. Okay, so here we go. What is the logic behind further restricting stealth, which barely works as it is? That question was posed to Max 2 weeks ago, and I don't have the exact wording in front of me of what he said, but the gist of what he said was, as I listened to it, I did listen to it earlier, is that it is an issue that they're working on. It was not defined exactly what whoever posed that question, it was not defined exactly what he thought was wrong with it. I think stealth, as it is, as a mechanic is right now, and I have a rank. Oh wait, we're in commercials.
Yeah, it'll be a minute. It just hit. But yeah, I am looking forward to having you guys on the show a bit more frequently, at least, or whenever you guys can donate the time.
Well, I was going to ask about Realm Watch. The truth is, Toth, I kind of miss doing Realm Watch. And I would be willing to do it again. I don't know if I didn't know how you would feel about me bringing up that issue on the stream.
It's
what I
fine.
think has happened.
Some have asked about it, and I haven't had an answer. So,
all right, then let me just switch to that, because I would like to do it. I think what it is there's someone on the team who got really mad, and when I lashed out at people, but I had damn good reason to do it. But anyway, time has gone by, so all right, I'll address that, and then we'll end up.
Language.
What did I say? I don't even remember.
We got about 18 seconds, and we'll be back live.
I can actually see it on my screen this time.
Hello, James, and I see what you said, Tosh.
And we're back. Once again, we're back for the final few minutes of the Toth Monra podcast. And again, this is the Top Monitor Podcast, and I am just your humble narrator.
One second. Jay, I'm not dealing with that no more. I've warned Mint James not to come in here with that mess. I gave him his final warning. Play around and find out. Sorry for the interruption. I just not want
That's all right.
Tolerate disrespect. I've asked. I'm not going to ask no more. Back to you, Karis.
Okay. All right, so what we were talking about on the ad break is to forget the stealth question, just forget the stealth question. We're going to bring up something else to wrap up with, and that is the issue of Realm Watch. For those of you who remember Realm Watch, it was a program that I did for a while where I was able to fly around above the battlefield, and it happened every Friday from 2 to 6 Eastern, 8 p.m. to midnight outdoor time. And I called play-by-play, right? It was play-by-play, and you could watch the action that was taking place, the fighting that was taking place from a different perspective and all that. And without going into a lot of detail, other than to say I had good reason, you know, a heated moment came up in the server, and my access to the dev account where Realm Watch takes place was terminated. Now, what I've tried to do is get a message to Max to say that I'm willing to do the show, because I am. I'm willing to go back to do Realm Watch again. I always thought that it was good for the server, and it was a lot of fun. I was able to have a lot of fun with it. And so the question that I'm putting out there to anyone who's listening is, if you know what Realm Watch was, if you watched it, if you would like to see it return, then just make that opinion known. And I'll send another message to the powers that be, and I know Techno has talked about it with Max, and we'll see if we can get the thing started again. I'm going to make one more effort. That's what it comes down to. I'm going to make one more effort to get Realm Watch going again, because I think it was good for the server. Just like this podcast, the Toth Monitor Podcast is good for the server. Realm Watch was good for the server. So I will make one more effort to get it going again. If anyone has an opinion on that, please feel free. And Ravisar said, thanks for the answers, but nice podcast. Have a great weekend all. All right. So, Techno, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on here?
I think that's pretty much it for now.
Okay. The next podcast, before I turn all this back over to Toth Monitor himself, just a last couple of things. The next podcast will be in 2 weeks from today, right, Toth?
Yeah, I plan them every 2 weeks. And
every 2.
Go
every 2
ahead.
weeks.
Yeah.
And we're working on other guests for 2 weeks from today. So please plan on returning. Please plan on returning 2 weeks from now. I appreciate Techno coming in and talking to us. And one last, you're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm still here.
One last question for you. You talked about the rollback compensation. So just in case, real quick, just in case anybody just joined us, there is a rollback compensation in the works, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then there is another live event in the pipeline, maybe, right?
Yep.
Maybe not till next month, but there is another one. Okay. All right, so in case you didn't know, talking about it earlier, there is a rollback compensation that is being worked on and will be administered at some point soon. Okay. I appreciate everybody coming in. As I said, if you would like to see Realm Watch return, just please make that known. And I'm trying to make that happen. I'm going to make one more effort to make that happen. Again, this is the Top Monitor Podcast. I come here just to help him out because, as I'm sure all of you know, it just makes things a little bit easier for Top that he doesn't have to do all of the talking. So that's the only reason I'm here. But this is his show, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and help out. So with that, I'll say thanks to Techno, to you, Toth, for having me. And we will talk again soon, buddy. It's all yours.
No worries. Appreciate you coming in, and thank you to Techno for coming in and explaining about the further compensation package it's being worked on. So that will get out to the server, because I will post an uplink of this VOD to my YouTube, which I'll in turn put in the RoR Discord. And again, extend my thanks to the rest of the staff for being on the previous podcast. And anytime you guys have information or you want to have a powwow with the community, let me know, and I can pencil it in. The door's always open to you guys and to the community. All you have to do is reach out to me and let me know.
No worries.
But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I am gonna be raiding out to someone else in the community here shortly, gang, so I can work on getting this posted, because I know I've been getting steady messages. What's being planned? Don't just sit tight. You'll see the replay, and then you guys can chat all about it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm gonna mute the Discord real quick. Alright, the Discord's off. Alright, appreciate you again, Techno. And again, guys, go check out Karis. He does his own streams, and I do appreciate him coming in to help. To answer the question that was some of the DMs, the reason I'm not speaking as much is because the stutter is from my stroke that I had in July, and it tires me out very badly trying to continue to talk, so I have to stop and rest. That's why I've been not wanting to constantly speak, or short bursts. I'm still trying to recover from it, if I ever do fully recover, but we'll see. Anyway, let me get a raid going here, guys. Again, I've been going for quite a while, so stand by a second here. Let me let's see who the raid target will be. Sometimes I raid in the community, sometimes I raid outside the community to try to help advertise this server. Let's see. Let me make sure who all's gonna be on here. Let's raid one of the newer guys. Shall we? No, just the person, because I know a lot of you people hang out. So I'm gonna get you over to Wicca Sloth, and I will see you a little later. Stay tuned. I'll post up in the RoR Discord as soon as I get the video done and ready. But later, all.